It's like your daily, you have extra corn, extra grain. You're distilling whiskey.
Okay, that makes sense.
Leftovers.
So you have the crops.
Yeah.
So why not make the juice?
Exactly.
Okay.
You run out of purified water, you're drinking the brown juice. That's just how it went, man.
There it is. Hydration's hydration.
It was the Gatorade before its time.
Yeah, it is. Yo, 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 welcome into the show. I am Ryan O'Leary.
And I'm Mike Zika.
And this is the Bourbon Playbook.
Just another podcast in the basement.
It is just fantastic to have you with us for episode 18 of the pod. And if you're joining us for the first time, we hope you like what you hear and would consider subscribing to the show on your favorite platform and spreading the word. Listeners can also donate to our bourbon fund, Zika. We are guys that like bottles of bourbon, and there's never enough on the shelf, right? So if people want to donate, they can go to where?
tbplaybook.com. T as in Tim, B as in Brady, playbook.com.
That's it. And before we dive in, quick shout out to the wifey, Katie K, for hooking us up with a new subscriber, Zika. Okay.
Respect.
I don't know this individual's name. Let's just call him Dude from Total Wine, who successfully sold my wife on some bottles of bourbon. Now, she brought one home. From what she told me, she asked a lot of questions from the Bourbon Playbook, such as, what ingredients are in here? What's the aging, right? So just a lot of stuff that you would hear on the pod, keeping this dude, again, Dude from Total Wine, on his A game, right? And she brings home a bottle that I've never heard of. It's a Texas brand. So I was wondering, Zika, if you wanted to play a little game.
You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game.
Ooh.
Maybe we could pop this bottle open, do a lightning round of tasting notes, rate this 115 proof bottle from Texas, and maybe do like a pass-fail scale, right? Like either my wife scored an excellent pour from the Dude from Total Wine, or a fail, meaning my wife got fleeced on a bottle that kind of sucks. Because you've told me in the past, sometimes the dudes from Total Wine will just try to sell you on a bottle. What would you call it? A scam? They're trying to get rid of this bottle.
Two bottles they're always going to upsell you on that I always recommend you try before you buy, because that's the thing with Total Wine, right? They're there to push bottles on you, right? Like at the end of the day. And there's two bottles. It's Wilcott. They always say, oh, it's a Buffalo Trace distillery. They're always going to push that on you. And then Chestnut Farms. Okay. Those two bottles, Chestnut Farms actually isn't that bad. They have some that are pretty good. But they're always going to toss those your way and just be ready to deflect.
Okay, so have you ever heard of Iron Root Harbinger?
I have not.
Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. So Iron Root Harbinger, this is what the wife came home with. Dude from Total Wine sold it to her. She did make him subscribe to the pod, and that was their agreement. So we did get another subscriber out of it, which is great. Right. Again, you can subscribe on any platform you want, and we appreciate it. Let's do a quick taste of the Harbinger. I'm interested.
Let's pop it.
And then if it's good, maybe we'll highlight it on a future pod.
Hey, let's do it.
It's not our bottle of the week, folks, but let's do a quick pre-show dram, if you will.
Ooh, likey.
All right, so this is completely blind. We've never heard of this bottle. We have not researched it. There's not going to be a history lesson here. We can't even cheat with our cheat sheet of tasting notes, right, Zika? So
correct.
On the nose, what are you catching?
Definitely a lot of spice, a little bit of cinnamon.
It reminded me right off the bat of like licorice.
Smelling the bottle right when you popped it, that's all I smelled is licorice.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, Rittenhouse rye is exactly what I smelled. I'm not getting as much of that now in the Glencairn. It's actually fairly delightful.
It's actually kind of got a fruity flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's fruitier than I expected. I was like, what is that? What is that nice scent? And it's like, that's fruit. Maybe this will be a pass. Let's try it. 115 proof. Again, Iron Root Harbinger. This is our pre-dram of episode 18 of the pod. Let's dive in. Moment of truth.
Moment of truth.
Well, Hector, here's the game plan. You're gonna bring us 2 absolute martinis. You know how I like them, straight up. And then precisely 7.5 minutes after that, you're gonna bring us 2 more. Then 2 more after that, every 5 minutes until one of us passes the fuck out.
Excellent strategy, sir.
I feel like the rye, the spice in the front has a long finish. And now I'm getting that like sweet vanilla on the front and then maybe some cherries or some type of fruit. And then I get a little hint of that licorice. A lot of caramel, a lot of spice.
I'm just going to say, like, you've named off like 5 or 6 different things. So this would probably qualify as a Zika approved pour.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't like the Rittenhouse rye. Like, it's just not anything very licorice forward. Not my favorite. But it's so subtle here, and it's overpowered by that sweet kind of caramel or vanilla to me.
All right, so I just pulled this up, Zika, online just to get the tasting notes. Nose, maple syrup, orange marmalade, and complex red fruits. Palate, red fruits and baking spices on a bed of dark sugars with a medium rich finish to get you back in the glass.
Okay.
That's what it says. To get you back in the glass.
That's a true savant that wrote that.
And that is actually on the Iron Root Republic website.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on.
Orange marmalade, that's not one that I would pick out of a lineup usually. And I'm no savant over here.
But I think like that, maybe the maple syrup and orange marmalade together gives it that licorice kind of aftertaste.
All right, Zika. So pass fail. Did my wife get jobbed at Total Wine, or did she get sent home with a pretty good pour here?
Yeah, I would say for the price point, what was it?
It was like $45 to $50.
Yeah, for the price point, I actually think that's not a bad deal. I think it's fairly complex with a long finish. That to me for $50, yeah, that's absolutely worth being on the shelf.
All right, there it is. Iron Root Harbinger, our pre-pod dram. Not bad. It's got me nice and warmed up. I'm lubed up for the show now. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. Let's get to our pours of the week. What you got, Zika?
Well, it is March, late March. What do you think my pour is going to be?
It's going to be another double pour. Last week, it was a double pour for NFL free agency. This week, March Madness, baby. Let's go.
That's pretty good, bro.
You're a March Madness guy?
I am.
Oh, this is like March Madness is in my DNA, honestly. It's ingrained in me.
And for me, I'm just trying to catch up with the FOMO, hang out with the boys, to be honest. I'm a March Madness fan. I'm a college basketball fan when it comes to March. Let's put it that way.
Same. It's like right around now is when I start watching the games for
the
first time, when the tournament tips off.
Honestly, and that's why I named my pour of the week brackets, bourbon, and broken dreams.
Like your busted ass bracket makes you need a bourbon?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like this. When I fill out a bracket, I'll do a little, I'm sure everybody does this, but like when you know nothing about it, other than like I followed Iowa State a little bit this year. That's my alum. I'll get into this in a second, but they had a good season, right? And I'm a Minnesota guy at heart, so following the Gophers, Ben Johnson, MIA. Did we even make the NIT? I'll get into that too. Sad story. That should be a pour in itself. But more or less, when I fill out a bracket, I always take kind of the number one seeds, and I'll read a couple quick articles, and then I'll always look up a couple underdogs who outperformed in their conference game to get to the tournament, or injuries, people that are coming back. So I'll do a little bit of due diligence for like 15, 20 minutes. So when I go in to fill out my bracket, I'm like, dude, hand me the money. Show me the money. You know what I mean?
20 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm feeling so confident. And then like after today, the first round of games, I feel like I'm literally sitting in a chair, back in college, drinking a beer in one of those shitty plastic chairs that's been sitting outside for 2 years. And they just kick the back leg and it just breaks and you fall on your ass. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how I feel after a day like today. So
yeah, it's a humbling experience, the March Madness bracket.
Very humbling. So as I mentioned, I'm an Iowa State alum. So I've got kind of plenty to cheer about this year, right? The Cyclones, they've been tearing it up this season. They're ranked number 2 in the AP polls in January, which blows my mind. Because when I was I guess we had a decent squad. I think we actually made a run back in 2012, 2013 maybe.
Georges Niang.
Wow.
I covered him.
No shit.
Yeah, he went to, I covered a couple games. He went to Tilton School in New Hampshire.
Really?
Back in my journalism days, yeah.
That's hilarious. I remember when he used to like come into the bar and the pub and stuff when I was working.
Yeah.
That is nuts
Yeah,
that you even remember that name.
He was a baller, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't that big.
I don't know what he's doing now. Is he in the NBA? He's probably like overseas or something.
He was in the league for a decent amount of time. Because I went to a T-Wolves game and I remember sitting right behind. I had pretty good seats, a couple rows back, and I sat right behind him. And I'm like, no shit. He was playing for like the Pacers or something. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, Niang. He was. It was a prep school, Tilton School. So they weren't like the public high schools. They were, they're the prep school league out in New England. So we didn't cover them a ton. We covered our local high schools for the most part. But the coach would always reach out and be like, hey, we got some NBA lottery picks over here.
Yeah.
And so we would go out there. But I remember covering a couple Tilton School games and seeing those guys play. It was like a completely different level than the public school stuff in New Hampshire that I was covering at the time.
Yeah, I could imagine. That he's very undersized, but really knows how to use his body and has excellent moves down low. Like I remember that. And that was back in the day when the mayor was our coach, Freddie Hoiberg.
Okay.
He was infamous Minnesota Timberwolves
I don't
superstar.
know. Yeah, I don't know a lot of Iowa State history, but I do remember Niang being an Iowa State guy because I covered him.
Yeah, well, that's impressive that you said. I was going to drop that, but like nobody on the pod would ever know that. So like, that's sick that you did. Anyway, just a couple highlights of ISU. Number 2 in the nation in January. AP poll.
Wait, you keep saying
25.
That in January. Well, like, what about in March?
Listen,
let's live in the past.
I usually live
not the present.
in the present.
Yeah,
we know that I live in the present for all Minnesota sports, but now we're crossing the border. We're going into corn country. And at that point, I might take a step back and just embellish and, a couple W's.
So when the Vikings are, they're struggling this year with J.J. McCarthy, he's having a tough time in his first time as a starter. You're going to be like, hey guys, we were 14-3 last year, though. 14-3.
Listen, I'll own up to that.
You're going to start living in the past.
I'll own up to that when that comes.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
All right? There's
Sorry.
a time and place for that.
I have a problem with interrupting you. Go on.
Quit being a Boston sports writer, dude. Quit shitting on my parade, all right?
I know. It's your pour.
We got a lot of momentum going into this season.
Go.
All right. My
bad. I apologize.
Off task. But anyway, so record 24-9. We finished 5th in the Big 12 conference, which kind of sucks. We lost to BYU, although Houston has been absolutely lights out. Anyway, it was really fun in 2024 when they won the Big 12, although they didn't make it as far in the tournament as I wanted them to. It was kind of fun just catching games this year. I mean, they were almost shooting 50% from the field. Curtis Jones, shout out, Minnesota native, Cretin-Durham Hall, homeboy, kind of leading the charge there with 17 points a game, and recently named AP Honorable Mention All-American, which is pretty cool, man. Iowa State's kind of on the up and up. Meanwhile, my childhood team, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, wrapped up their season in a disparaging fashion.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've seen them in the bracket before. I don't think they're in this year's bracket, though.
Yeah, so I don't know how it works with the NIT, but from the article I read, they declined the NIT as they basically booted out Ben Johnson, their head coach. Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's an invite. Yeah, it's an invite. So it's like, do you want to get invited to the tournament that is basically kissing your sister? Do you want to kiss your sister?
Sorry. Oh, I see. They're like, we're not like Wisconsin. We have all of our teeth.
Yeah.
Like,
no, Minnesota's like, we're not kissing our sisters this year. I appreciate that. No, you definitely deny the NIT invite. You're like, we suck. We didn't make the tournament. We didn't get invited. We'll try next year.
It's super sad, break out your mini violin. But Ben Johnson was hired to bring in all these studs into Minnesota, like the hometown boys, right? A couple did just shout out, like Chet Holmgren and Jalen Suggs. They both went to Gonzaga.
Chet Holmgren was like, he's like a stud high school player out here, right?
Yeah, he's a freak.
And they couldn't compete for him.
No, and that, like, Ben Johnson's like claim to fame was he coached or worked with all these AAU boys, and so he was supposed to create that pipeline and bring them in. And I think out of the past, top 15 individuals to come out of Minnesota, he got like number 13 and 14 or something along those lines. So clearly just couldn't make it happen. I mean, if you're losing out to Gonzaga going to Spokane, Washington, I've never been there, but I mean, I don't know. You're
Gonzaga
leaving,
now an elite program though. Not back in the day, but now they are.
yeah, ever since Morris and that mustache, that flipped the script.
I will never forget him crumpling down on the floor crying with the mustache, like just bananas.
Yeah. I mean, that goes to show March Madness, right? Like, so for me, you know what? Stoked about the Iowa State Cyclones making a run. You know, I got them going. I might have them in, the Elite Eight, but I always got a little chip on my shoulder.
I think I have them farther than you this year.
Do you really?
I think I might have them to the Final Four.
It's funny because I think it was 2014. It might have been with George Niang when they had like a pretty good squad. And I took them, can't remember what they were ranked. It was fairly high. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 seed. And I took them to go to the Final Four, and they lost first round to North Texas University. If I recall, you can fact check me, but this was a long time ago. But it was some scrub team like that.
Yeah, that's what happens.
With these, NAFs, gym class heroes. And I was like, all right, dude, like, come on. And they continue to repeat this in history. So I always give them maybe an extra round than I think they might be able to go. But
oh, great.
But at the end of the day, honestly, I know nothing about college hoops, right? But sitting with my buddies, sipping some fine brown juice, talking like I know what I'm talking about, that's the real March Madness tradition for me. And that's ultimately what I want to pour it out to.
Yeah, March Madness, man, that was my pour as well. Holds a special place in my heart for sure. My old man literally used to get both me and my brother out of school early for the first Thursday of the tournament. And we'd watch ball all day that first Thursday. Some super great memories of me sitting in class and it being around noon. The first tip off on the East Coast was 12:15 Eastern, and so it'd be around noon, and I'd look at my buddy. I'd be like, "I'm about to get called out. I'm going home to watch basketball." They're like, "No,
Yes.
no, not even close." And also, it's like, "Ding, Mr. Wilson, yes." Can we have Ryan O'Leary to the office, please? And I'm like, later, suckers, I get my books and walk out. And they're all like, no, my dad would always get me out of school. I loved it. And the glue was his own creation, his own March Madness knockout pool. He called it the knockout pool.
Okay.
This is an OG office pool, if you can think about it. Because remember, I'm about to turn 40. And this is back when I was like barely in high school. Like I'm probably a freshman, sophomore in high school. So we're going back in time. This is OG. This is before you're logging onto the internet and, playing in office pools online, which is all I do now, right? It's all on your phone.
Right.
This is like hard copy sheet of paper that everybody gets. Like you print it off. My dad would take it to work and he'd put it in the copier and then he'd pass it out to all the people in the pool. And then for this pool, you needed the local newspaper. It was the Nashua Telegraph in New Hampshire, the Nashua Telegraph. You had to get the newspaper, and the way the pool worked was very similar to like a Super Bowl square pool, right? Where you randomly get a square, randomly get some numbers, and if the score happens to match your numbers, you win some money, and that's it. It takes no skill. It's all luck. This is exactly what the knockout pool was, right? You get assigned a random team out of the first 64 that are in the bracket on that first Thursday, right? You have your 64 teams. You get a random team. Zika, give me a random team.
Iowa State University.
Iowa State. Okay, so say we got Iowa State. My dad would always put me and my brother in together as quote unquote the men. So in the pool, we were the men, and the men were known to be really fucking lucky. Luck of the Irish, the O'Learys. My brother is actually way luckier than me. So him pairing us together actually helped me out and helped me realize some of my brother's luck because. Growing up, Christmas, whatever, my dad would throw some scratch tickets. My brother would always win. I would always lose. There was one year where I literally traded my brother. I'm like, no, I'll trade you mine for yours. And he still won and I still lost. Like, there's nothing I could do to win. But the men being together brought me some luck. And we actually ended up winning money as young kids. It was the coolest thing in the world. We probably won like $40 or something, but we thought we were the coolest guys in the world and we were rich, right? We could take that money down to the local card shop, maybe buy some bubble gum.
30 packs of candy cigarettes.
Exactly.
Yeah, dude.
You're the coolest guy. But, okay, so it works like a square pool. and you get randomly assigned a team. So say you have Iowa State, Zika, right? Say you're the men and you have Iowa State.
Yep.
On the day your team is playing, whether it's that Thursday or Friday of the tournament, you have to go get the Nashua Telegraph newspaper. You have to open up or you have to contact my dad. You have to call him on the old landline. You have to call Budman.
Hilarious.
Or you could get the newspaper because we used the Nashua Telegraph, America's line in the scoreboard. You had to flip to the scoreboard, find the line, and find the spread for your game. So say it was Iowa State versus, give me another random team.
St. Mary's Benedict.
North Texas. Yeah.
North Texas Christian University.
North Texas Christian. So it's Iowa State, North Texas Christian. Iowa State, I would imagine, would be favored in that game, right? They're favored in the paper. Let's say it's 16 points. They're favored by 16, okay? And we have Iowa State. So we look at the newspaper, they're favored by 16. You always have to add a half point. So if there's not a half point already, you got to add a half a point so there's no ties. Okay, so now we're favored by 16.5. So if Iowa State covers that spread, we advance. We move on to the second round. We're not knocked out. If Iowa State wins but doesn't cover the spread, we lose. We're out. And the person we were facing, the person that had, what was it again? North Texas Christian, whatever the hell we came up with.
NTCU.
Yeah. The person who had North Texas Christian that was going against us takes our Iowa State and moves on to the next round because we didn't cover the spread.
Dirty.
Right?
I love that.
Or if we lose outright, they just move on. The underdog team moves on. And as you get, I think you make the money once you get into the Sweet 16, you win like $20. And then you make it to the Elite 8, you win like $50 on top of your 20. And then, you keep going. And if you win the championship, you end up winning a couple $100 at the end or something. It wasn't like this crazy thing. There was not that many people in the pool. It was like a legit office pool where literally my dad's printing copies out the printer, copier, handing it out to the people and say, hey, come pick up your sheet and then go get the newspaper so you know the spreads. But it was hilarious. And me and my brother would do this. My dad would get us out of school for our games. We would make signs and hoot and holler and watch the games on TV as a family. It was really, really fun. And when we advanced, it was the greatest thing for us. And it was really like, as kids, it's like, this is how you get, and I think of it as a dad now, right? I have a 3-year-old, like, how do you get your kids into sports? Stuff like this. Like, this is why I still love March Madness. I'm still in my dad's knockout pool. Today.
Really?
Yeah, I have Yale.
He still does
I think I got knocked out. Yeah, Yale. Yale screwed me today, bastards.
That's hilarious.
I don't think they covered the spread. Those assholes. Fucking Ivy League bastards. Yeah, no, we're still in the pool. We're still in the pool. My dad still does the knockout pool to this day. This is literally like, God, 25 years ago? 26, 27 years ago? And it's still going on. Just like amazing memories. It made me love March Madness. And then it gets me to like the real pour here. Why I now need a bourbon during March Madness, right? That's the good part of the story. Here's the bad, right? My first ever NCAA bracket that was online, where you play in the pool online. This finally happens. I'm in college, and these dudes from UConn, University of Connecticut, are putting together this pool. A buddy of mine knows these guys, and they're just trying to spread the word. They're trying to get as many people in their pool. They want it to be a word of mouth thing. And I get in this pool in the first year they've ever done it, right? And it was like on this sketchy website too that they had, like, I don't know if they like created it in some, it's not like runyourpool.com or anything like some of these, pretty legit sites now where you like pay for the site and you can host your office pool on it. This was a very shady, weird site, but like, they gave you the link, you signed up, you get on there, and it was, again, OG NCAA bracket pool, right? So I get in this pool and I start getting in the weeds. I'm in college. I have nothing else to do, right? I'm a sports nerd. So I'm just like studying up on all these teams. And this is the year, it's 2005. I'm taking you back to 2005, Zika. The year Florida won the national title, okay? Florida, if you remember this team, they had this dude with crazy hair, boisterous center. His name was
Noah.
Joakim Noah. Yeah, Joakim Noah.
Yeah.
They had Al Horford, who just won a championship with my Boston Celtics. They had Corey Brewer.
T-Wolves first round draft pick.
Minnesota Timberwolves, right? So they had this stacked roster. I remember looking at this Florida team just like at their stats. And I'm like, man, their starting five is legit. They have guards. They have forwards. They all averaged double figures. Their whole starting five averaged double figures. They averaged as a field goal percentage was over 50%. I remember looking at that even back then being like, and this is before all these analytics sites existed too. Like you just had to look at the raw stats and like make your decision. I remember looking at that and be like, they average 50% as a team from the floor. That means they're efficient, right? Like they know how to score. So they're not going to be overwhelmed by a good defense. So I really like this Florida team. They were a 3 seed. And I knew the pool was created by a bunch of UConn dudes, and Connecticut was a 1 seed. So I knew I was fading UConn. Also, this is East Coast, right? Boston College was in the same bracket as Florida. They were a 4 seed, and they had some good players, and there was a lot of buzz around Boston College. They were a trendy pick that year, like to come out of that region as a 4 seed. I knew I was fading Boston College, right? So I went all in on Florida, and they randomly won the national title, right? It was just great. It just like they won it. They won it. They went all the way and they won it. They ended up going back to back actually, right? But they won in 2005. I also had this amazing upset pick where one of the 1 seeds was Duke. Fuck Duke, right? Like Duke,
Always.
like the most annoying team.
Coach
So I was looking for a way. I'm like, okay, I know I'm fading Connecticut. I know I'm fading Boston College. I also want to fade Duke. Well, I saw like a potential matchup in the Sweet 16 was LSU. LSU had this big kind of chubby center who could ball.
Baby Shaq.
His name is Glenn Big Baby Davis.
That's it. Yeah.
So I started reading about Big Baby, this guy named Big Baby.
Yes.
And I'm like, I love this dude, and this is the type of dude that would give Duke problems because Duke, like typical Coach K team, like kind of soft, right? So get a good big man who can go out there and like ruffle some feathers and
Bust it
have
up.
some swag. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm picking Big Baby Davis to beat Duke. And they did. Number 4 LSU upset Duke in the Sweet 16. So between that crazy upset pick that nobody had, Florida making their run, like I didn't even need to get to the finals. I had already had enough points to win I won the bracket before the championship game, well before it. It was just like, I was like a savant. Like you're the bourbon savant on the podcast. I was like the March Madness savant of this 2005 inaugural March Madness pool. The first one I've ever played in. I won, and I won going away. And it became a thing. Like all my buddies in college were like, dude, that's really impressive. Zika, I won $1,400.
Dude, that's like
the equivalent of what, 10 grand?
you could easily buy a Toyota Camry with
Seriously.
like 60,000 miles on it.
Seriously, $1,400. I was the coolest kid on campus. I was Van Wilder.
Yeah.
I was basically Van Wilder, dude.
I've learned that you can't treat every situation as a life and death matter, because you'll die a lot of times. Write that down.
I don't have a pencil.
Well, remember that then.
It's been 20 years. This is the 20th year anniversary of my first bracket win.
Your
And I
boy's
know-
still hitting you up.
And I know that because, I know that because I've never won since, and I've never come close to winning since. So I was like the savant on, everyone's like, dude, O'Leary is like March Madness savant. Like, how did he do that? And every year, like people would hit me up, O'Leary, who do you like for upsets? Oh, what 12 over 5 are you going with, right? Like, who's your national title? Like, people would hit me up on text. I'd be like, oh, yeah, here's who I like this year. Wrong. Just wrong. Like, I haven't been able to come close, Zika. It's been embarrassing ever since that first. So that's why I wanted to like pour it out to this 20th year anniversary of me hitting my bracket, because holy shit, I think I might already be done. Like, it's Thursday. We're talking on Thursday night, first Thursday of the tournament right now of 2025. I've lost so many games so far. Like, it's been so ugly. So that's it. I love the bracket. It's so nostalgic. It brings me so much joy every single year. Still, I get excited on Selection Sunday, even though I don't watch college basketball, as you said. March Madness is the most humbling thing. Even if you're on the top of the world, if you have a great year, your bracket's awesome, and you win some cash, you think you're the best. I'll tell you what, you could spend 20 years trying to do it again, because I haven't come close to hitting a bracket, since. It's been awful. And now, no longer. Nobody hits me up anymore. This year, not one person texted me about, hey, O'Leary, what's your March Madness? I've lost all of my credibility. I'm just totally out there. So that's what makes me need a bourbon. I love March Madness so much. And then after one day of games, I'm like, I need a drink. I'm toast again. So pour it out to the brackets, fan. There's nothing better.
All right. And for the Spotlight Bourbon of the Week, we have McFarlane Reserve Select Cask Strength Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
McWho?
McFarlane.
Okay. I've never heard of this one.
It's got a little bit lower price point at about $35 to $40 and proof point about 108.
Easy to find?
Very easy to find. It's
Okay.
everywhere. This is a bourbon that they push on you at Total Wine. You know, I frequent into Total Wine just to see if they got anything on the shelf. And I'm always into trying samples, right? Like I always think, especially if there's a store pick in any liquor store, if they have a store pick on display, typically they always have one open in the back. So I always highly recommend asking like, hey, you know, before I purchase this bottle, do you mind if I take a quick sample? And Total Wine has, you know, a ton of bottles open, right? Unfortunately, they don't always have their store picks open, especially anything over like $100. They always have a solid barrel store pick, which can be hit or miss. I've had some awesome, fantastic barrel store picks, but they're typically over like $100. Barrel is in the brand, like the distillery.
Yeah. Have they ever opened a bottle for you?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's something where they have to like I got to follow up my chain. You know, it's like, dude, do you want me to buy this $75 bottle or not? Like, I'm not going to unless you let me try it.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell them every time. So, you know, they got their little cabinet and I'm always kind of going through samples. And this is one that stood out to me. And for the price point and for how he was describing it to me, I was like, yeah, I'll try a sample of it, you know, whatever, for shits and giggles. And I tried it. And I first tried I think they're small batch. They have several different ones where they have a bottle and bond, and then they have a little bit more expensive cask strength or 13-year reserve as well. And out of all of them, I thought this one was the most complex, and for the price point was like a no-brainer. So for me, this is a bottle that I went back to the liquor store several times to purchase, just as potentially a daily dram, but we'll see.
Oh, okay.
We'll see.
Little E5 tease.
Little sneaky Zeke in there. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I like it. We'll see.
So bourbon accolades. Gold medal at San Francisco World Spirits Competition in 2023.
Yeah.
The Whiskey Advocate got 93 points. It scored.
Out of 100?
Correct.
Money.
Yeah.
For a bourbon in that price point you gave us? 93 points. Okay, go on. I'm intrigued.
It's fire. And outside of that, top 15 cask strength bourbons of the year from Breaking Bourbon, which I have no idea what that is. But it makes them sound really good.
Honestly, we should have named our podcast that. That's pretty dope. Breaking Bourbon. Like reminds me of I just picture Walter White in his underwear right now holding a gun.
With some meth in his left hand, a gun in his right hand.
Exactly. I just picture Walter White breaking bourbon. I love that.
That's pretty sick.
So good.
But anyway, so I'm just trying to pad the stats right now to justify my point why I like this bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you guys do too.
I'm excited now. Now you've talked it up, this $35 bourbon. So.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if it's as good as your science teacher's bourbon, but we'll find out soon here.
Mr. Harbinger?
Yeah.
I like that.
Get out your beakers.
Yo, 148, 3 to the 3 to the 6 to the 9, representing the ABQ. What up, biatch? Leave it at the tone.
So this historical tribute pays homage to Major James McFarlane, a very pivotal figure in the 1794 Whiskey Rebellion.
1794?
And Ryan, off the top of your head, do you know when the United States became independent from Great Britain?
Oh, Jesus.
I'll give you a clue.
Your dad's going to be so disappointed.
I'll give you the month. July
4th.
Yep. Good job. So who was Major James McFarlane? Let's double click into that.
Okay.
So he was born around 1750 in Pennsylvania or Virginia. There's not a lot of data out there on this, but
one of the two.
Tomato. So McFarlane grew up on a frontier, kind of mastering farming and distilling. These were actually essential skills for early settlers. Think about that. So this was a part of their everyday life.
So he's like, should I milk the cow or make some brown juice?
Literally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to give you an example of how long ago this was, we just spoke about this. So the United States became independent from Great Britain on July 4th, 1776. So again, he was born in the 1750s.
So well prior to that.
Prior to the independence. So it's kind of crazy to think about. Which brings us to our next point of the U.S. Revolutionary War. So McFarlane joined the Pennsylvania militia during the American Revolution, which took place in 1775 through 1783. And he rose to the ranks of a captain, just kind of based off his upbringing and frontier experience. As a leader of the Whiskey Rebellion during this period, McFarlane led the frontier of farmers in a rebellion against the federal whiskey tax, protesting it was an unfair burden on small distilleries.
So he had all the farmers up against this tax.
Exactly.
So he wasn't the only farmer who was in the whiskey game.
No, so he basically was standing up for people like himself, except he was a captain of, a military forefront.
So he's in the military, he's also a farmer, and he's also distilling brown juice.
But everybody was back then.
Okay.
It's like your daily, you have extra corn, extra grain, you're distilling whiskey.
Okay, that makes sense.
Leftovers.
So you have the crops.
Yeah.
So why not make the juice?
Exactly.
Okay.
You run out of purified water, you're drinking the brown juice. That's just how it went, man.
There it is. Hydration's hydration.
It was the Gatorade before its time.
Yeah, it is.
So the Whiskey Rebellion. So America's first tax revolt. So this was basically the tax that started it all. So we're rewinding the clocks back to 1791. So the U.S. government at this time was led by Alexander Hamilton, who actually imposed this whiskey tax to pay off war debts. So frontier farmers who relied on whiskey as liquid currency obviously saw this as like a very unfair burden on them, right? So this is when the frontier fights back. So small distillers in western Pennsylvania refused to pay, harassed tax collectors, and even burned down their homes. So for them, taxing their bourbon was just a step too far. So looking at Major James McFarlane, this Revolutionary War veteran, turned himself into this rebel leader of the galaxy of like Star Wars, right? We're thinking, Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, and he ultimately rallied 600 armed farmers to take stand against federal enforcers, becoming this key figure in the Whiskey Rebellion, which leads us to the Battle of Bower Hill in 1794. So the rebels attacked a tax collector's fortified home, and during a ceasefire, McFarlane stepped forward only to be shot and killed. So his death ignited the rebellion even more. And this time, Mr. George Washington was leading the fleet.
George Washington?
The George Washington, a.k.a. President George Washington, the president with wood teeth, personally led 13,000 troops to crush this rebellion and enforce that federal law. And this is the only time, mind you, that a U.S. president sitting has done this, like literally led his troops into battle. So ultimately, this was the end of the legacy. The rebellion collapsed quickly, as you can imagine. 6,000 intoxicated alcoholics versus 13,000 troops that were sober, eating maggots and Spam at the time, obviously crushed them, right? So although it collapsed quickly, it seemed to kind of set this precedent that the U.S. government would enforce its laws by force if necessary. So many rebels fled to Kentucky and Tennessee, unintentionally kind of shaping the future of bourbon distilling. So it's kind of interesting how they take all this background with their distillation processes and move to, kind of the land of milk and honey.
Yeah.
And
bourbon capital of the world now.
Exactly. So like you wonder where all this inspiration comes from. And it's little things like this that kind of plant that seed to kind of understand where we're at today. But finally, bourbon wins in the end. The rebellion failed, yes, but America's love for whiskey only grew stronger. And today we still honor that rebellious spirit one pour at a time, thanks to the man himself, Mr. McFarlane, Captain McFarlane.
Jack Sparrow, isn't it? Captain Jack Sparrow, if you please.
So where is McFarlane Reserve today? So McFarlane Reserve Bourbon has been around since about 2021, but there's no actual McFarlane distillery. It's actually produced by IJW Whiskey Company, which sources bourbon from various Kentucky distilleries and bottles it under McFarlane Reserve's label. The source of the bourbon is a mystery, and this is where it kind of gets a little murky for me. And as like a bourbon enthusiast, you want a story behind it. You want to know that these barrels are produced from the land, all the way from the grains to the water to the distillation process to how you filter it in limestone or charcoal process. Whatever you do, you want to know the story behind it, right?
Yeah.
And the sad part for me is the source of the bourbon is actually a mystery. So while the label states that it's distilled in Kentucky and bottled by Kentucky Whiskey Bottling in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, the deeper research kind of links it to Wilderness Trail Distillery in Danville, Kentucky, which also makes some decent bourbon as well. But this is where IJW has been quietly kind of sourcing a high quality whiskey since then. So this sourcing model often leads to less public information about the brand and its origins along with their production methods. And for me, that's something I want to know. Like, I want a little story behind what I'm drinking. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of disappointing for me, at least as a bourbon enthusiast. I thought it'd be kind of fun to read some actual reviews of this bourbon. So the real question is this hype or hogwash?
Love it.
So let's read some roasts.
Boom. Roasted.
All right, I'll kick us off.
Yeah.
So Nacho Mama, 4 stars from Nacho Mama. So these reviews come from
directly from the website. This is actually from Total Wine.
Okay, this is right from Total Wine. Okay. Okay, so from Nacho Mama gave this bourbon 4 stars and with the label better than expected. Very good cask strength bourbon at a good price. So Nacho Mama was a fan.
4 stars. That's pretty good.
4 stars.
Lulu 7, on the other hand, labeled this as a 1 star, not smooth or pleasant. Smooth? ? I guess if I compare this to drinking turpentine, maybe. Not sure about the 5-star ratings and what they drink regularly because this is not smooth and does not have a good finish. We'll leave and come back in a few months if it improves, but likely going to end down the drain.
Boom. Roasted.
Have you ever poured a bourbon down the drain, Zika, that you didn't like?
I have not, but what I do is I do have an infinity bottle. It's basically when I have a little bit of bourbon left in a bottle that I'll pour it into just to kind of savor it. But if not, what I'll do is typically give it to guests in old fashions. Depending on who those guests are.
Yeah. O'Leary and neighbor Zach.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. The Drunken Lizard, not surprisingly, gives a 5-star review. Drunken Lizard's hammered somewhere, like just off his rocker, his or her, and is just a happy person, a happy soul.
Just schlupping on his porch.
Yeah.
PBR in the other hand.
So
Farland in the other.
Drunken Lizard, 5 stars, does not agree that this is tastes like turpentine.
Not at all.
I would say this is my go-to when I don't have Weller on hand.
Ooh.
So that is that's
bold statement.
That's pretty high praise, like comparing McFarlane to Weller, which I know is one of your favorites.
Correct. Moving on to Row V.
Wade.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Oh boy.
Good old Row V.
Yep.
He gave it a 1 star.
I'm nervous.
Yeah. Row V gave it a 1 star with the subject line, not good. Seriously, in all caps.
All caps.
Not good. I thoroughly enjoy elevated proof bourbon. That's my jam. After 45 years of drinking bourbon,
savant,
this is the worst, in capital letters, one I've ever had. like fermented walnut shells and turpentine.
Okay, so we have 2 turpentines now.
And he finishes it off with saying, it tastes like what the Bottle and Bond Act fought to protect us from. Like something one of the Al Swearengen's less scrupulous competitors would sell on the top of a rotting 2x4 outside in the dirt.
Boom. Roasted.
Okay, so Roe V has a, I have no idea. I'm not smart enough to follow what he's talking about. Do you know what he's talking about, Zika?
So after a little quick Google search, Al Swearenger was one of Deadwood's most infamous and brutal citizens. He opened his Gem Theater in 1876 and was one of the first entertainment venues in his town. He lured in desperate women from all around and then bullied and beat them into becoming prostitutes.
Oh.
So the fact that this guy even knows that scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
And compared it to that, to be fair, Deadwood is actually a pretty good series. I'll give him that, but a little bit on the deep end, I think, with that comment.
I don't know about you, but that last comment made me need a bourbon. What do you think, Zika?
I'm ready for a pour, man.
Yeah, let's pour this thing. Let's try it.
Boom. Roasted.
Rather delightful on the nose, Zika. A lot of fruit in there. Red fruit, cherry. You tell me.
Honestly, yeah, I get the oak, the honey, and the dark fruit. Yeah, I think this is like on the nose. I just love it. It is a little hot, but obviously it's a cask strength, right?
Yeah.
So you get the ethanol burn, but
the proof again was it 115?
108.
108.
108.8.
Want to hit the palate?
Let's do it.
That's a spicy meatball.
Little hot, but I see what you mean. For a bourbon in that price range, you said $35?
$35.99. And honestly, at Total Wine, I think it's listed at $39, but you get coupons in the mail, or if you're like a member, for $5 off, like every month. So it's basically $35 if it's not on sale or whatever.
I mean, it's hard not to really notice the sweetness off the bat.
I get a ton of that. Think about like the honey on the front, and then there's like another, like right before it goes to the mid. So you taste it for a second, and then it goes from that sweet, sweet honey to like almost that orange zest or like a burnt orange peel. Mm-hmm. And then the spice creeps in really quick with that longer finish. That's kind of what I'm getting on this.
I agree with that. It's like a mid to long finish, and it doesn't kick your ass with the spice. It doesn't.
Which is interesting because you love that spicy finish though.
Yeah, but
right?
I mean, but it's got spice. Don't get me wrong. It just doesn't kick your ass, which makes it a good pour.
A little fun fact about the bourbon process with McFarlane here is they actually have a 4-grain mash bill. So unlike typical bourbons that use 3 grains, McFarlane Reserve incorporates corn, wheat, rye, and malted barley, offering that unique profile that gives it, that distinct taste that separates it from other bourbons.
So the wheat is the added ingredient?
Yeah, because a bourbon needs to be 51% corn regardless, right? So adding that wheat's going to add that more soft and delicate flavoring on the front end.
Interesting.
Don't know the percentages, don't know the breakdown, but this one, again, is very sweet forward. Finish is spicy, but that sweet kind of holds on to the front to the mid of your tongue with that longer finish.
All right, brother, E5 scale. Where does McFarlane land?
Remind us first off what the 5 are.
All right, the essential 5 categories are the daily dram. Honestly, we haven't had a lot of daily drams. That's a tough one to categorize because, it's just like kind of a niche category in the E5, right? And we'll get to that. But number 1, daily dram. Number 2, impress my guests. You threw some examples in the notes here. Zika, Blanton's, the 1792 full proof, Old Forester 1920. These are bottles that we've covered on the pod and have put in the impress my guests category. That brings us to number 3, the budget blend, which is a subjective category for me. Budget blend, I've said this in previous episodes, the budget blend makes me feel like it blows, right? It blows. It's a budget blend. Budget blend means it's cheap. But to Zika, it's reading by his own notes, a flavor-packed wallet-friendly bourbon. Right?
That's exactly right.
So that's it. Super subjective. It's probably the one we argue over the most, Budget Blend. So we haven't had a ton of bourbons fall in Budget Blend so far because of that. But we do have a lot of Saturday night sippers.
Yes.
Right, from the pod. A lot of them fall into this category. I think the majority of ours would probably fall into either Impress My Guest or Saturday Night Sipper, right? Because you've brought, it's not like you're bringing a lot of low-tier, crappy bourbons to the table so far. Like, I think a lot of what we've tasted so far in the pod have been pretty fucking solid bourbons, reputable brands. And the Saturday Night Sipper is one where, you've had a week. This is a bottle that you really enjoy. It's maybe not one that you're excited to share with others, right? But it's one that, you might want to sip for yourself or maybe chilling with like a buddy or your wife or whatever, right? You're watching your show for the week or whatever, and you're sitting down. You want to have one good pour, one nice sip to like toast that the week is over. That's your Saturday Night Sipper. A ton of sense. And then Precious Pour, that's number 5 on the E5 scale. That's your crown jewel. That's your special occasion bourbon. That's one that you're breaking out every now and then. That's probably your most expensive bourbon and hardest to find that's on your shelf or in your collection. And we haven't had many Precious Pours on the pod so far, Zika, because we haven't busted out your Pappy yet. So as soon as you come across a Pappy Van Winkle, you're going to have to let me know so we can pop that open.
I got a Rip 10. It's coming. And I got a Russell's 13. I'm excited to break out. Other than that, I got a couple other Precious Pours in mind, but we'll get there.
Yeah,
all good things take time.
We'll get there. Where we stand right now, Precious Pour, it's not going to be a bottle that's you can have for $35. That's
Correct.
not going to be your Precious Pour.
Correct.
So we can eliminate McFarlane from the Precious Pour. So once again, I think coming into tonight, we knew this is not going to be a Precious Pour kind of bourbon.
Yeah, I mean, it's no elite football team like the Minnesota Gophers, so we're going to pass on that.
Okay, so now I have to put this into a category.
Correct.
You want to know my take?
Yep.
Daily Dram is very interesting. The price point makes me feel like this has a shot to be a Daily Dram because we haven't had a lot of Daily Drams.
I don't think we have.
We haven't had one?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so we haven't had a Daily Dram. It's possible. If we have, it's maybe like we've hemmed and hawed over it, right? Like we haven't had a definitive Daily Dram on the pod. I would agree with that. And I think the price point makes me think this could be a Daily Dram. I actually enjoyed it way more than I expected when you told me what the price was. So I'm excited. I'm anxious to hear your take on that too. I think Daily Dram's in play. Impress My Guests. I shy away from Impress My Guests with this one. I mean, I don't think the bottle itself is anything spectacular. Just looking at it.
Not even the 2 stickers. Not even the 2 gold foil stickers.
They added some gold stickers.
Feels a little fake though. I will give you that.
They tried. They
tried is a great. That's a great tagline.
The only thing that's impressive to me is that it's this cheap and this complex. Budget blend for the O'Leary budget blend, it would have to fit because of the price point. But at $108, I know for you that's a little bit on the high side. I think it's in the gray area for budget blend, so I'm going to skip over that one for now. Saturday Night Sipper, I don't know if it's quite. Saturday Night Sipper and Precious Pour are they're kind of neighbors, right? And I've kind of learned this as we've gone along. Like Saturday Night Sipper is like your tier down from the elite pour, but it's a tier up from the others.
Exactly.
In the E5.
Yep.
And I don't think McFarlane quite gets there. So I'm landing on Daily Dram. I mean, I think there's a reason you brought this bottle here tonight, Zika. You've been trying to get a Daily Dram on the pod, and you want me to agree with you. And I think I do. I think I'm landing the plane on Daily Dram. Was that the goal of tonight?
Final answer?
Yes.
I'm stuck between 3.
3.
The first 3. So Daily Dram wise, yes, it's your reliable go-to pour. 108 proof. Love it. As a, whiskey enthusiast, been doing this for a while. Something that I truly enjoy. I like the flavor. I like the price. And it's something that I can find anywhere. Any day of the week, I can go pick up this bottle. So, Daily Dram, check. Impress my guests. The wow factor, maybe not.
I think impress my guests is a stretch with this one.
Right. So, I mean, I could impress them with the taste. I like the taste aspect. Looking at it as a bottle, not that impressive. Budget blend. We brought up a good point earlier. It's 108 proof. Typically, that just kicks it out of the category, right, off the top. But I do like the finishing, the tasting notes on it with that kind of orange citrus, orange
marmalade.
That's
what we talked about.
Burnt orange peel.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be a solid pour in a old fashioned or Manhattan. So you don't have to add, you don't have to muddle that orange in there. It's naturally, it's very like, citrus forward, which is fantastic. I love the overall, the budget side of it. I mean, come on, we're talking $35 to $40 for a bottle.
Yeah.
That's hard to beat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is one that I'm definitely pouring out a side pour for this so I can enjoy it in a Glencairn while also making, a cocktail for my guests.
How many bottles of McFarlane have you bought within the last couple years?
In the last month, I've bought 4.
In the last month, you've bought 4 bottles.
I'm just kidding. Probably in about the past year and a half.
In the year and a half, you bought 4 bottles.
Correct.
So that almost screams Daily Dram to me, right? You've continually gone back to this bottle because it's cheap and it checks multiple boxes for you, right? But you've continually gone back and bought this bottle over and over when you really don't have to. It's really not a high-end bourbon. It's not a bourbon that you have to, you don't need to know a guy at Total Wine or like High Five Liquors down the street to get this bottle. You can get it wherever, but it's one that you continually buy, you continually want to have on your shelf. To me, if there was ever going to be a fucking Daily Dram on the show, this is it. McFarlane's it.
Hook, line, and sinker, buddy. You got it. This is officially the first Daily Dram on the pod. Final answer.
Love it.
The reliable go-to pour. And I mean, we're talking that long vanilla, almost cherry, citrus finish with the spice on the back of the tongue. I feel like this bourbon itself is a perfect fit for the Daily Dram.
Either way, though, we drank it, we debated it, and now it's your turn. Until next time, keep your glass full and your takes hotter than a fresh charred barrel.
Cheers.
Wow.
Love you guys. Subscribe.
Wait.
TV Playbook.
Way to enlighten the masses.
There you go.